Bill Maher stopped touring because he was afraid he was going to get shot for doing his stand-up. And I think the important understanding is that Bill Maher has stepped out of the bubble some time ago. He was in it longer than he should have been. I've always been a fan of Bill Maher, though I was critical as he was staying in the bubble, much like he is critical of Patton Oswalt in this latest episode. It is truly something to behold. I cannot recommend it enough, and I am I'm such a big fan of Bill Maher at this point. And I know many of you are saying, like, but Tim, he said this, or he said, guys, my point is this. Listen to this show. I'm going to show you some clips where he says to Patton Oswalt, there are grooming gangs in the UK. Immigration has become too much. They are exposing kids to this crazy stuff. Bill has been reasonable as long as I've followed and watched his content. I knew people were going to get upset when I went on his show and had a good time with him. I knew we didn't completely agree. I pushed back sometimes, but I tried to be polite, much like Charlie Kirk did. Because I know in my heart of hearts, if Bill had access to the same information I did, we would agree 100%. And of course, Bill gets emotional on certain issues related to Trump, and he knows the guy personally, and they're not friends. But he does have a tinge of that Trump derangement syndrome, but he's starting to come around as he's paying attention more to what is going on. Which brings me to this point about him fearing he would get shot. It's because he's breaking the bubble. He has become an apostate, much like I and many others. Take a look at this from the Daily Mail, and then I want to show you these clips. Bill Maher has taken a step back from his stand-up comedy amid massive political division. He said he felt the political atmosphere simply got too hostile at the end of the year. I don't want to be out there in this country in this political atmosphere. The comments come about 2 months after Charlie Kirk was fatally shot. Now, I don't believe a conservative would kill Bill Maher. I believe a leftist would. He said, would it have killed someone to get up there since all they want to talk about their politics, just to say we had a political assassination this week and that's wrong? They would have been booed off the stage because he was on the wrong team, so you're not even allowed to say that. Again, I went on Bill Maher's show because since I was a teenager, I have been a fan. I used to watch Real Time when I was young. I have been critical of him on numerous instances since then because he's been wrong about things. Notably when Dennis Prager pointed out they were putting tampons in the men's room, and it was for females in the men's room, and Bill Maher said, this is crazy. They laughed at him. The thing is, that story mentioned by Prager at that point was already 3 years old. 3 years that story had been in the public sphere and Bill didn't know about it. And I'm going to criticize that. But I know that Bill's a rational guy. And when given proper access to information, he will be on the right side of these things. Which brings me to the podcast he did with Patton Oswalt. Overton News says, this is Bill Maher at his best. He dragged Patton Oswalt out of his bubble and forced him to confront the brutal reality of UK's grooming gang crisis. Let's go, Bill Maher. This is what I'm talking about. This is peak epic Bill Maher. I am such a fan. Guys, listen.
What's going on in England right now is a lot of that. I mean, like,
what's going on in England?
Again, not in the bubble.
Okay, well,
doesn't get in the bubble.
Don't wait a minute. Just tell
it really
me.
Doesn't. It's a big. I don't even want to start with it, but
okay.
It's like just a lot of violence, protests, immigration, cities that Andrew Sullivan, for example, says are places that my grandfather would not even recognize anymore as British. Like, immigration is great.
Yeah.
Anything can be too much. And it has become Islamicized, to put it briefly.
Anything can be too much, but a lot of times the way that things are framed and represented is also amplified so that they can make their point.
But like, do you know about the what do they call it when they get kids to grooming, the grooming scandal?
No.
See, that's a big story.
This is in the UK.
Yes, that went on from like the 80s to the present, and it wasn't
You're talking about the royal family.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about Pakistani men who were immigrants, who were grooming poor, impoverished white girls mostly in these things, and making them into prostitutes and sex slaves and like really nasty shit that would pass for more normal in a traditional Pakistani society where women are not considered equal citizens. And if you don't understand that, and that gender apartheid is the #1 issue that you woke people should be concerned with but seem not to be, then right away we're not really seeing the world as the same way. And I think I'm seeing it much more clearly.
Yeah, but
gender apartheid should be your #1 issue. If you really care about oppression, like a lot, I'm talking about hundreds of millions of the world's women, and it's mostly because of the tenets of Islam, to be perfectly honest about it. And this is what's going on in England, and this is why England is having a big problem these days. Because in the interest of DEI, they are allowing practices that are so illiberal, which is the great irony. This is the least liberal thing you could be, is treating women as a second-class citizen and getting away with shit like.
There's more. I think this is okay. Here we go. This is the big mic drop moment. No, actually, I think the grooming gangs was amazing. Patton Oswalt had no idea. Listen to this.
I hate to admit this. This country is not as mature as it thinks it is. We elected Obama, and clearly the country freaked out. We're still living in that freak out. We are not as progressed and evolved and intelligent as we think we are because we keep freaking out about this stuff.
Well,
you know?
The left freak out too. The left freaked out about a lot of bullshit too.
What did they freak out about?
Gender, race, parenthood, schools, homelessness, crime, the border, education. Like we stopped being a scientific people. Like it's not scientific.
But the left certainly stayed scientific.
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't.
Why not?
Because they think gender bullshit that they went way too far with. That's not scientific.
But how did I'm not trying to. How did they go too far with like gender stuff? And I'm not trying to
instead of if I was teaching children, what I would teach them is there is a default setting for the human being, which is heterosexuality, but that doesn't mean every person is that, and we should completely respect everyone who isn't that. But we understand that that's called a minority, and what makes us a great country is that we respect minorities. We don't think they're lesser just because they're lesser in numbers. That's not what we started to teach, which was that every baby is, I don't know, let's not even put it on the birth certificate. That's what they wanted.
Were we teaching that?
Yes, we
when
were.
When were we teaching that?
Teaching it. It was a law here in California. See,
to teach what?
Don't put sex on the birth certificate. We'll see. Now, we've passed that period now.
I'm sorry, I don't remember that. I mean,
I know, because it doesn't get in the blue sky bubble.
Wait a minute, I'm not just on blue sky.
Yes,
I really think that's a lot of it, is that some of this stuff doesn't get in to everybody's media.
This is peak epic Bill Maher, and it's the Bill Maher that I used to respect back when I was growing up, and I am happy to say I have tremendous respect for today. There was a period where Bill was very much in that same bubble, corporate news and politics, and he didn't understand what we were seeing, and it broke my heart because urban, liberal, disaffected, Tim Pool, all that stuff, I watched real time. That's what me and the homies did. Now, the homies we all still agree with each other. We've been following the same stories. We've seen the woke chaos. We've seen the Bud Light stuff. And we ask questions, why are they putting tampons in the men's room? And for a while, Bill laughed. And he said, that's crazy and it's not happening. Much like Patton Oswalt is saying too. I am sick of the corporate media structure and the algorithmic manipulation on big tech platforms that keep people blind, deaf, and dumb. Bill Maher, welcome to the party. They've been calling him right-wing for a while because he's been calling this out. But isn't it amazing? You know, Bill, as an atheist guy, has always taken strong issue with Islam, authoritarian Islam. He'll give respect when there's peaceful people doing peaceful things. But as he points out with the UK, I think this is what allows us to open the door to explain to Bill, because he understands these pieces, but he doesn't understand he's being lied to in other areas. It was fascinating. I had a conversation recently on Timcast IRL where I I can't remember who I was talking to. You guys might remember. They said, I didn't realize that literally every journalist was lying to me. And I laughed, and I'm like, yep, weird, isn't it? Everything was a lie. And I'm not saying Fox News is telling you the truth all the time. They have their biases as well. But when you start getting into social media and looking these things up and reading other outlets, you can see the decentralized media. You can see what's true. Bill has been exposed to this, and it is tremendous that he's able to sit down with Patton Oswalt and others and explain this to them. Patton Oswalt doesn't pay attention to the news. He then goes on X and says something dumb and thinks he's right. He says, what did we do that wasn't scientific? I don't know. You rescinded studies on gender dysphoria because protesters got offended. That happened. University of Oregon, I'm pretty sure. You claimed that protests during COVID reduced the spread of COVID, as if we were all a bunch of dancing retards. So we get it. It is tremendous to see. Tremendous to see Bill Maher coming out. But you know it's not. You know it's worrying. Why he quit touring.
A number of things. Just got tired of the travel, obviously. I miss doing it. Also, I feel like it was a great choice because I don't want to be out there in this country, in this political atmosphere. I could get shot by the left or the right.
Yeah, well, at this point...
No one on the right will shoot you, Bill. You know why? People on the right, they smirk, they grimace at Bill Maher. But sometimes they cheer for him. Because even when Bill was more woke, he still called out things that were in the principle, like the Islamization of the UK. Though he wasn't well versed on these things, he'd still call out a little bit. And people, and we had our videos where I was like, Bill's wrong about this, not paying attention. And then we would go, hey, he's right about this one. Even if Bill was a raging lunatic liberal psychopath, the right is substantially less likely to shoot him. Though maybe you can get people pissed off enough. I'm saying for Bill, who he has always been, I don't think the right would ever shoot the guy.
It's a good time to not be out there.
But he is right about this.
And also, apropos of this discussion, I just got tired of being twice as funny as people who were selling twice as many tickets as me.
Oh,
that's just you know what? That's partly because I'm on TV every week. So, not that I didn't sell a lot of tickets and do great theaters, but I didn't sell arenas, and some people did who, frankly, are not that great.
Actually, what I would say is this of Bill Maher. I think one of the challenges he had with those ticket sales is that he wasn't in the zeitgeist. When you go into the public space, there are jokes that people you've got to relate to them. You can't say something that they don't understand. Like if I made a joke about skateboarding, you'd be like, I don't get it. Of course you don't get it. You got to know the language. You know, yeah, Bill went to do a nollie hard flip in a game of skate, but guess what? It was pressurized, and you're going to be like, huh? I mean, don't get me wrong. That's not like a real joke. My point is jargon, right? If Bill Maher is not in the zeitgeist, he's not paying attention to the goings-on, his jokes aren't going to land the same way. That's why it's important for a comedian to understand the temperament, the sentiment, the news, and relate to people. There's always jokes you can do about cats, simple things, you know, like my toilet got clogged, and then this, you know, so here I am, minding my own business, and Sam Cedar shows up to debate me, sits down in the chair and tells me he broke my toilet. I don't know why he did. You can make, you know, I'm not saying I'm a comedian. I'm saying you can make jokes that are relatable, like a toilet got clogged. You know what I mean? But I think it's fair to also point out that Bill's in a different space, and it's easy to see him on TV, so why pay to see him? But he makes a good point about being shot. And I would just stress it's not going to be the right. The things he's calling out right now fly in the face of the left. He is an apostate. But shout out, man. This is Bill Maher at his best. Smash the like button. Share the show with everyone. You know, stay tuned. More to come. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all in the next segment.